When trends collide together, they create an exponential effect. At that time in 2008 and 2009, we called it the digital agenda, because your mobile phone, the internet, big data, they were all merging together, right? What came out of this? Your phone came out of it, right? A half year later, we were sitting together and we realized, holy macaroni, it's not 5 trends colliding together. It's 77 megatrends colliding together in a period over until 2050.
How do you define strategy? Let's start with that. And then again, I would love to come to trends as well, but let's start with strategy. What is strategy for you?
Strategy is a set of choices that you take from a company perspective, from a person perspective, from an individual perspective. You take strategy choices, and for business, it's 3 choices you take in a certain sequence. What not to do, where to differentiate, and what to focus on. Web 3.0 will first emerge in the bio-revolution, because it's in the bio-revolution your information will be your ability to make money. The biggest lie we have today with our youth, we're telling them follow their passion. Be surprised when I tell you that 99% of all the money are securities.
And this has been, I think, the most exciting podcast we have done on Quantum Minds. Really, Professor.
Oh, I didn't even dig deep, right? But I'm an expert.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Minds Podcast. My name is Kapil Dhiman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Curanium. And today we have a very special guest, somebody I have huge amount of respect for, Professor Henrik von Scheel. He's the originator of Industry 4.0, awarded as the futurist of the century by CNBC, and an author of this amazing book, Strategy in the Age of Disruption, that we're going to talk a lot about today. Professor, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And I'm really excited to finally have a sit down with you in person. We have had a few calls before, and I just want to tell the audience as well, just to meet Professor in person, I came from India to Switzerland, and it's totally worth it. I'm looking forward to this amazing conversation.
Yeah, let's have a good time.
Absolutely. So, Professor, I of course just very briefly mentioned about your background, and of course I can't do justice to it, the diversity that you have had throughout your career, the value that you have added to a lot of people, and so many things that you're creating right now. I think it's gonna be, if I can just request you, I know you don't like to talk about your achievements, you're really humble, but very briefly, if you can share about the journey that you have had and what's your focus right now, what's keeping you busy these days?
Whoa. Well, people know me most as a futurist, but at the core, I'm actually a strategist. I've been focusing on the last 20 years on the research of strategy. So I'm a scientist, and with a group of several universities, I'm studying the patternicity and probabilities and effects on strategy. I know this sounds very complicated and a little bit boring, but that's my passion, right? So studying strategy is like you look on a body and you know what the body consists of. It consists of muscles, of sinews, of veins, of arteries, nerves, right? The same thing is with strategy. So you have core archetypes, and they have a certain pattern how they, in a semantics and ontology way, interact with each other. So this is what we study, how organizations work, how you build business models, how you are... and part of this is trends. And trends are megatrends. And when megatrends come, you study the effect, which part of the organizations they have will affect on, which 6 categories of trends are coming, and which phases they're emerging, which industries, which economy, which demographics, globalization, workforce, how they will affect, and how you can take action on it, right? We've been studying this with MIT, with Howard, with Fraunhofer, with part of the university called Institute for Strategy and Future Studies. We study and research this field. So this is my passion, and this is what I do. When I say this is actually the difficult part, because people want the, they want the trends, they want the sexy stuff, they want all of this, right? So.
Right. So from this, Professor, I pick up two things in very specific that I want to talk about: strategy and trends. Right? Because these are, in business world as well as in the academics, the most used terms. And I see like you have written another amazing paper on the Hype Cycle 2024 where you discuss a lot of trends as well, right?
Yeah.
So would love to pick your brains on how do you define strategy? Let's start with that. And then again, I would love to come to trends as well, but let's start with strategy. What is strategy for you?
So strategy is a set of choices that you take. From a company perspective or from a person perspective, from an individual perspective, you take strategy choices. And for business, it's 3 choices you take in a certain sequence. What not to do, where to differentiate, and what to focus on. That's it. In that sequence. Then within that, you have a segmentations on what you do, right? So in what not to do, for example, with all the trends and forces, a company consists of capabilities. What they deliver, how they package it, what they do to deliver to a customer, a service or product and somehow. And these capabilities are their skills based on people. So strategy is saying, good, what is affecting me that I need to adapt to? And what are the opportunities out in the market that I should take? So from everything which is on the table, they will have AI, they will have, I need to have more revenue, I need to have fundraising, they have a whole list of what they need to do. The first thing they need to do is saying, what is it I should not focus on? So deselection is the first element to say, what is it that is affecting my business now in terms of what I need to react on? Compliance, regulations, I need to serve my customer better, right? And then what is it I want to do, right? What are the opportunities I have in AI? What are the opportunities I can serve better my customers, right? So this is the first element they choose. And then the second element is saying, how is it I can differentiate? And differentiation is at 5 different levels. So competitiveness is 5 forces, right? You have hyper-competitiveness, you have comparative competitiveness, you have industry competitiveness, you have competitive advantage, and you have comparative competitive advantage. I know this sounds all like complicated words, but they are, like in research, very well defined, right? So when you have everybody talks about competitive advantage, but very few have it. Competitive advantage is designed, and competitive advantage, the competitor never knows they've been outcompeted. Hyper-competitiveness, when you have a product and you compete with another supplier on price, on delivery, right? And you need to be very fast, have a better price, better quality, better delivery, so that the customer gets a value add in this element. Comparative competitiveness is when you're competing head on head with a competitor, and you need to be minimum as good as they are, and in some aspects a little bit better, right? So, then the last bit is then you decide on, once you decide on this, you decide on which choices you want to focus on to differentiate, where you want to play to win, and how you want to differentiate.
Interesting. And out of these different categories of competitiveness that you define, are these stage oriented for, I'm talking about, let's say in a business environment, at different stage of a business, do you have to give different importance to either of the category? How do you allocate importance to these?
Yeah. So let's take a practical example, right? Most organizations today focus on digitalization.
Yeah.
And so they have started digitalization projects, and since 2011, right? when I did the strategy for Germany in 2008, it was the big digital agenda for Europe. So, and then in 2011, we announced the Industry 4.0. So most organizations are on a digital journey. The digital revolution is the first of the 8 phases of the fourth industrial revolution. So this phase they're all approaching it. But today, 73% of organizations fail in digitalization. And one of the reasons is because they approach it from a software perspective. So SAP, Oracle, they're providing digitalization, so they come from a process-driven element up, right? A process is something which is you have cemented in your organization. You cannot adapt and change. So digitalization is only 15% of the organization. So it's the workforce, right? The workflow is where a process which is in a system hits a person with a robot, with a machine. So it's 3 layers connecting together, and they're connecting together in your ability to add more value to your company. So when companies come to me and says, Henrik, we need to do it smart, right? I actually do them with them in 2 days, right? I said, you need to learn to do it yourself. So I gather them together where we say, good, for example, manufacturers, what is your warehouse management? What is your supply chain management? How are you working? What are your challenges? And within that, you look automatically with them and say, good, what are the key workflows? How you work in your warehouse management, in your supply chain management, in your assembly line? What is the value add that you have, that you can add, that you don't have now? So you design a workflow, and the groups all around the table in the organization, they know that. You don't need external consultants to tell that. You need them to align to do that, right? And then after this, you outline with them. So AI is the automation of intelligence. And most of, in organizations, 70% of an organization is non-core. Financing, HR, so it's not complex by nature. So the nature of that is that you need to optimize it. You need to drive cost down and performance. So before you do digitalization, you realize this is my key flows, how I want to service my customer, how I want to have on-time delivery. I want to know when the product is where at what time for my customer to deliver services. For that, you will do very pragmatic things to optimize. For example, AI, everybody talks about AI, the big things, learning machines, all of this. We've been doing AI for quite a while, right? So normal manufacturers on the ground say, good, how do I start? Good. Well, my idea for them is very simple: robotic process optimization in your financial processes, right? 3 years ago, cost them 2 million. Today, they can get it for 20,000, right? First element, right? So they have a certain roadmap on how they increase their productivity level before they deliver a better service in digitalization, right? So within the workforce of digitalization, you focus on what is the better service I can deliver? How does it affect my cost, my revenue, my operations, my performance, right? So within that, you have a universe where suddenly the executives can alter and change the organization to be more agile within that, right? So that's a practical example on how you apply strategy to a content that is already very heavy on their arms, right? And they say, well, I need to have AI, I need to have robotics, I need to have machine learning, I need to have all of these, and you put these pieces together to add value of what already exists and change bits to it.
Wow. But you mentioned something very interesting, that 74% of the organizations believe they are doing digital optimization, but they're actually not.
So let me rephrase that, right? So 73% of digitalization projects fail to deliver on time, value, or be completed.
Okay.
So by design, failed projects, right? So it's because you take a process and you optimize the process. Let me give you a different example of digitalization, because it's difficult. It's actually easy to understand, but it's better with an example, right?
Sure.
So when you go to Starbucks and you order a number 22, and he types it into the machine, and the order goes in your procurement to say, of that coffee that much, we need to order more. That goes automatic, right? The order appears back at the guy, Fritz, who takes the coffee, he puts it in, he takes the amount of coffee that needs, he pushes it in, he puts the pressure in, he turns it around. Everything is totally defined for him what he needs to do. Right? And then he puts it over there and says, Kapil, here's your coffee, right? And then he shouts out Kapil, right? So the process is what happens behind, where the steps and activities, there's an owner, there's a role, there's steps and activities, right? You can optimize this to a certain level, right? But that's a process, right? The service that you get as a customer is that the person that sits there says, right? He writes your name down, he smiles at you, he takes it in, he gives you the change, everything, and you feel comfortable with it. They shout it up, and then the value add you get is how you're being served, but also that you have all your extra stuff you want. You have your milk, you have your cinnamon, and all the stuff you want to put on how you like it, right? Exactly. So what is the workflow? The workflow is what happens in between the machines, the systems, the person, and all of this. So if you wanted to change that workflow, you cannot change it in how fast you do the coffee. That's what organizations were trying to do. So that doesn't change anything. What changes something is that you say, you know what, we are replacing where he stands, his view of the orders, and how fast we can see the order. So you change the whole way of working, not the process. Because, so I've written 3 books on processes, right? They are bachelor's degrees. They're called The Complete Handbook of Business Process Management, right? So 800 pages, 900 pages, and 1200 pages, right? It's the complete version of business process management. The reasons why I wrote the book is because many years ago, when I was in IBM, I was part with Professor Mark von Rosing to develop the ASAP methodology on SAP. And that's how every customer today implements SAP. SAP is around 65% of every organizations around big organizations have SAP. And we did it, we were young, we were probably the smartest guy around on how to do it, and we talked with a lot, we did research, and we realized we wanted to do on processes, right? So we did the ASAP methodology, SAP implemented it out, everybody got around to it, and we realized a year later that we did it wrong, right? We realized later that the process did not matter. We realized the workflows matter. So we wanted to connect it with SAP to change it, right? So, but it was too late because the whole world jumped on that wagon, right? The consultant worlds, they love the process thinking because there's a lot of hours that they can sell, right? But in reality, it's not how organizations work. So that's one of the things I'm actually regretting, that I did something, the world embraced it, and it's a standard today in the world, but it's actually not. That's one of my big regrets, by the way.
Wow, I'm actually mind blown by just when I picturize it the way you use the example, because you're so right. I mean, most of the organizations pay importance to processes. Let's optimize the process. Like, this is not what we do it, but that's where they are wrong. And why do you think it's so, Professor? What is it that these organizations are missing that they focus in the wrong direction? Right? They focus on process instead of, let's say, workflow. Right? It's simple once you understand it, and the result of doing it right is tremendous. The delta is much higher. But what do you think causes focusing not in the right direction? How do you think?
I think it's a mix of several things, right? One thing is that we were the leading thinkers at the time and we didn't know better, right? Because it was actually more prototype that we're going through, right? The second thing is the market was waiting for something. Because strategy is a discipline that is not that old. Strategy is only around 1960 was the year where it really kicked off. It's normally military driven strategy. And that's where project management, Gantt chart, ERP emerged, Porter's forces, right? I have at the Institute for Strategy and Future Studies, we have a whole chart just on all the models that came out on strategy for the last 100 years. And you can see how many came up in operations for business model, and they are radical how many they have come up, right? So it's part of the history that we didn't know better, and we're evolving fast, right? So whatever strategy you learned in school 10 years ago, it's not bad, but it's not how strategy is done today. If I would tell you today that there are 6 business models, most wouldn't even know the business models and how to work with them. If you're an executives, you need to have minimum 3 strategies that you work with simultaneously, right? A growth strategy, an operational strategy, or you have a shareholder strategy, or you have a cost strategy, a competitive strategy. Minimum 3 strategies you work at the same time, right? So it's not that straightforward, right? And part of the evolution that came into it, right? That strategy is highly visual, right? Because decision making, how do you make decisions in something that is complex, right? So something is complex, you need to, for example, Porter came out with a value chain, but that's like 50 years ago, 30 years ago. So the value chain 4.0 you see is a different one than 30 years ago. Why? Because you can map your revenue flow, your cost flow, your headcount distribution, right? You can do far more things with it than what you could do before. So today it's a decision board. Before it was a visual representation, right? So you do many things in strategy today. You do strategy positioning 40% of the time. You do strategy choices 10% of the time. And then strategy execution 50% of the time, right? So strategy execution is a Gantt chart, right? Strategy choices you cannot take before you have a visual element on how is your organization operating, what are the challenges, what are the megatrends, forces that are affecting your company where and how, and what are the scenario thinking you have of choices, and which ones are you going for, right? And then you can take choices, right?
There are 2 very important things that you mentioned, and the first one, strategy has originated from the military background. I firmly believe in that. Like the most important, my favorite books to read are around the military. Like Art of War has become like a go-to for strategization. And the second thing you mentioned is strategy is visual. That's an amazing point, right? Can you elaborate on these 2? Why do you think that the military angle to a strategy? Because even in businesses, I've seen like many leaders operate and take decisions with a military mindset. Like, okay, how would an army general operate in this situation? And that's why I think the art of war has become so popular. Why do you think it's so? And connect it with the visual aspect of strategy that you mentioned.
Yeah. So to the art of war, I can tell you, this is my 6th book. Every time I do a book, I promise my wife I will not do another book because I'm highly dyslexic and I'm not good at writing. That's why my books are very visual, right? And so I nearly 80% finished with the next book, which is the visualization of the art of strategy.
Wow.
Right? Because each of the segmentations, it's only 88 words, right? Each of them has, I'm trying to do a visual representation of Sun Tzu, how you do that today, right? So I'm nearly finished. with it, but that's one of my passion projects that I have, right?
Would you talk about it in detail, please, like about this book that's coming?
No, it's first coming in a year. I first need to do my pole dance on this one.
I want people to see this. Like, this is the book that you're talking about. Strategy in the Age of Disruption. And, like, we would love to talk about this.
Yeah. So what I have in this is a practical book for any person to learn how to do strategy, right? On a personal level and on different aspects, right? Let me take you through an example, Kapil,
Sure.
right? And let's not take it through your company. Let's take you on a private roadmap of your strategy, right? So one model I developed with Steve Jobs, that when I came in with Steve Jobs, he had McKinsey and Deloitte in there, and he was really frustrated. And he said, Henrik, you're the best guy in strategy. Give me the solution, right? And I realized really fast it didn't matter which solution I give him. His own bias is so strong that he cannot see what he should see, right? So it took me a couple of days, and then I developed this model for him. So the model is called can, want, and should do model, right? And it's very simple, right? The can is everything you can do. Your capabilities, your skills, your resources, your assets, everything that already exists, right? That makes up you, right? Your capabilities is your capabilities to adapt. Your skills is your ability to build capabilities. Your capabilities are your abilities to build competencies, right? Competencies, you know the mechanisms, right? So human beings have an ability, right? An ability to do many things. With that ability of adding knowledge and using hours and time of it, you build skills. When you use skills and you become very good at something, you become an expert. Skills and expertise delivers a capability.
Okay.
A capability you can model. Many capabilities added with software, solution, all of this creates a competencies. A competency is what organizations compete on. You don't have competitiveness and capabilities, only on competencies. But here's the chicken and the egg discussion. You cannot model your capabilities. If you change organizations, you change your organizations with your capabilities and skills. So in reality, you go back the whole line to people, right? So when you look at this, you look on what can you do? And executives go from that circle to the next circle, the want. The want is what they hear, what the competition is doing, what the press is saying, what they search on ChatGPT, everything which they want to do, right? This brings them into the danger zone. Because the danger zone is that you're like a teenager, you do what you want.
Yeah.
It's like you get pizza every night just because you can, right? So you actually have to go down from the can to the should. And the should is divided up into two segmentations. It's the internal view and the external view. So what is it you need to adapt to in terms of your resources, your skills, your capabilities, what the market is saying, what the competition is moving, the economic environment, all of this, right? So suddenly you move from what your abilities are, what you can, to what you should do, right? And within that is the phase where you transform. So transformation is the word that you can transform something only if it exists. So if your company already has a capabilities, you can change that capabilities from one area to another area, right? So you can, when you're good at playing piano, your capabilities is that you can read the notes. You can transform that to buy a guitar, but you have to learn in a different way how to play. But it's the same notes, right? So that's transformation, right? Then you realize to come from your should to your want, you have to add new things to it. You need to add new capabilities or abilities or tools you don't have. You have to act to the scenario of the market. You have to act to the competition. You have to do certain things you don't have to do, right? And here you have to innovate. And innovation always requires you add a new capability or a new skill to something you don't have.
But Professor, you mentioned innovation happens between should and want.
Yes.
Ideally, shouldn't it be between can and should?
Because the can and should, only transformation happens. So transformation gives you effectiveness.
Okay.
Innovation gives you efficiency. Transformation only comes because you are integrating, you are optimizing, right? You're automating, right? Innovation happens when you invest and you align.
Yeah, because if I can and I should, then it's not like, of course, like it's transformation. But I want to do it. Maybe I lack something, and that is where I'll try to innovate. Okay.
So for the audience, they probably couldn't see it. It looks a little bit like this, right? And you use the same model where you have the 6 business models, and you just put into, if I want to grow, which rhythm should I go? If I want to have operational excellence, what do I need to do, right? So it's a thinking model to help people to do it, right?
Yeah.
You can use it for your teenagers or for your employees or to align elements to it, right? Because the biggest lie we have today with our youth, we're telling them to follow their passion. What is passion? I'm asking you, Kapil.
Something I think it sits between can and want.
Yes. Passion is an emotion. What is an emotion? An emotion comes and goes like the wind. Right? You need to build first skills. You need to learn some new skills, new abilities, right? If you like sports, that's good. If you like being creative by playing, right? So if you like an instrument, it's not that you are just musical, right? You can see things, you can hear things differently, right? You have a creative element to it. That creative element you can export to food. You can export to many things. You can be a creative cook, right? So I'm saying is that we should teach our youth to play piano, to learn to cook food, to learn to do sports, to learn to all of this. Within building skills, they get passion.
But then how do you decide which skills they should choose to learn?
So you normally see in children, I have 2 grandchildren, you see the inclination to something already, right? So I have one grandchild, Bella, she is 1 year old, and since she was born, she just loves music. She smiles when she hears music. She wants to sing, right? Music comes natural to her. It's like everything in her, inner her, draws her to this already, right? So then I have another grandchild, Molly. She likes patterns. She likes to do stitch work. She likes to draw. She likes to combine things in a certain pattern, right? She's very innovative, very creative, right? So their parents are then responsible to say, good, we should at least teach Bella to learn an instrument, right? But we should also advance Bella in different element to get new skills, not only music, not only this, right? So it's actually trying to all the pianos that you have on the inner side of you that you don't know. You have to learn to play them all, right? So that's part of, if you only have passion for doing this, you never learn all the other ones, right? So that's where I'm saying, don't follow your passion. Learn skills, and within skills, you learn passion.
I'm just trying to understand, Professor, the point that you mentioned, right? Inclination, the kids, like the example that you took. Isn't that passion? The inclination, the self.
No, it's not passion. No, it's preset.
Okay.
Right?
So you believe every human has a preset, which...
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you have the same nose as your forefathers?
No.
You same eyes?
I don't think so.
Yes. So most people of us, right, we have something from our ancestors, right? We have a DNA that comes along with us, right?
Yeah.
I believe that there's more than just DNA coming with us, right? Inside, right? That portion of you is a set of DNA. Every DNA is unique, and that set is set that you can use and reuse, right? I think the human evolution will change very much in the biorevolution. And I think it will unlock our abilities far more. But that was just one model. That's my passion, right? And so my passion in strategy I found because I practice strategy, right? And I just fell in love with it more and more, right?
Yeah. But before I move to the other topic, there's something which is tickling with me, with the way you mentioned it. You talked about preset, right? Every human has a preset. Do you believe that by design there are only a limited number of people who have a preset or who are designed to lead? There can only be like 1% leaders, and that's why like the world operates like a pyramid, if you will. Do you think there's some merit to it?
So I think as male and female, it's very difficult. I'm old-fashioned guy, right? I'm focusing on family. I'm focusing, I'm old traditional guy, right? I do think it's a good way to explain what is the difference between us and AI, because that's where you also see where the preferences are, right? There's certain elements that are different between us and AI, and very few people really mention them. But that is what makes us human, and that is what makes every human unique by design, right?
But yes, I'm with you. Like every human by design is unique, but for a world to operate, there has to be leaders, there has to be followers. Right? There can't be like, not everybody is a leader, not everybody is a follower, and there has to be balance between the two, right? The preset of becoming a leader, is it predefined that by design some people are meant to become leaders and then they keep polishing that skill to become better leaders? Or do you think that no, there's nothing like that, this is an acquired skill, and even if you don't have that preset, you can learn it and somebody can climb up the ladder to become, let's say, a leader in this age of disruption?
So you talk a little bit about why we go a little bit off topic, but that's okay, right? So you talk a little bit about Carl Jung, which was switched to, by the way, right? He talks about the archetype of personality of people, right? This has evolved a little bit today. You have the sigma male, you have the alpha male, you have the gamma male, you have these 5 archetypes, right? So you're describing a little bit version of this, right? Well, by design, I'm a sigma male, right? That means I've been a bishop for many years, where I've been serving other peoples. I can lead, but I don't want to take the stage to lead, right? Alpha male, that they're normally inclined to lead, right? But I wouldn't define leadership this way, right? So I'm a father, and when I'm in my own home with my wife, we've been married for 35 years, I'm for sure not the leader, right? I follow her lead because she knows how to run the family. If they need, if she needs support from me in the direction, they look for support in me, and so she makes me feel like I'm the leader of the family. But everybody in the family knows that she is the leader of the family, right? She has the final words, right? Which is not taking anything away from my ego. It's just realizing what is it that works best, right? And so I think leadership is not necessarily, it's getting the best out of people in several ways, right? So you see today, the last 15 years, different types of leadership evolving, right? So the Institute for Strategy and Future Study just released last month the new leadership competencies that leaders and managers need in organizations for the future work, right? That's a whole different topic. But the element for leaders has changed, right? The females have entered into the boardroom and to the leadership for the last 15 years, right? That has changed the leadership style, right? In 2010, the leadership style was performance driven, right? Today, the leadership style has trickled down at management level, and the leader on top is, depending if they're shareholder driven or not shareholder driven, it's normally more consensus driven. And that's the female version that entered into to be consensus driven, right? Not all organizations like that, right? But it's a form of leadership, right? So today, when you look at the leadership table, you probably have 4 or 5 different variation of leadership, right? So I wouldn't name leadership as it's only this version and this version, right? When you look at that from a political point of view, without getting political, right? It doesn't matter if you're Chinese, Indian, European, or US, right? There's a certain dynamic that happens in all countries and all nations, and it's independent of policy. It's the same dynamic, right? You first have some sort of capitalism emerges. Trade, ruthless, performance-driven, innovative, right? That creates value add, money, revenue, work, right? People call that capitalism. I would call it a bigger framework, right? But it often includes chaos because they are the frontiers, they're the pioneers, they create something new, they innovate. This is what the value add in society is there. Once the value add has emerged, normally democracy emerges.
Wow. Now, Professor, I want to move to something really, really interesting, or I think the most important thing and the most interesting thing that I've come across recently. Industry 4.0, and I'm looking at this paper just to show the audience. You have designed this evolutionary stages of the 4th industrial revolution. I would love for you to take us through it. What is Industry 4.0?
So the Industry 4.0 is called the 4th industrial revolution. And in 2008, we had the crisis in Europe, and Germany was the pumping heart of Europe for productivity. And they had a recession coming up. So Angela Merkel asked Professor Henning Kagermann and Professor Scheel, which are monsters, right? And me to do the strategy. And what we did at that time is that we realized that there were 5 megatrends that were colliding together. Normally in strategy, you look at what is affecting you, right? And before that time, trends were there for 10 to 15 years, so people had good time to react to it. When trends collide together, they create an exponential effect. Something new comes out of it. This is what I study in strategy, right? So at that time in 2008 and 2009, we called it the digital agenda because your mobile phone, the internet, big data, they were all merging together, right? What came out of this? Your phone came out of it, right? Social media merged, they all came out of it, right? So we call it the digital agenda. It was actually the collision of the virtual, the digital, and the physical world. And a half year later, we were sitting together and we realized, holy macaroni, it's not 5 trends colliding together. It's 77 megatrends colliding together in a period over until 2050.
Wow.
Right, so this is what you see here. That's the periodic table. That's I think the one before.
Yeah.
The periodic table is divided up into like a periodic table, right? So you have the technologies, you have the regulations, the workforce, the economic trends, the globalization trends, the consumer trends that are all emerging, and they're like in the color codes, and they are numbers with it because the numbers are the inclination how they interact with each other. That's actually what we do at the institute. We study this, right? So what is the inclination? So you can see down here, what inclinations do they have, and what are they moving towards, right? So today, when you look at trends, everybody's so excited by technology trends, but the technology trends are not the biggest elements, right? So the fourth industrial revolution is the biggest transformational shifts that happened in human society on how we consume, how we interact, how we work, how the industry works. It changes our work fundamentally in every aspect. There's been no change ever in human history in the shortest period of time than we have now. And that phase is coming out in several stages, right? So when we announced it, the first phase is the digital revolution, right?
Yeah.
And the digital revolution, you can call it IoT, IIoT, right? All of this is in reality the connection of, you connect the digital world with the virtual and the augmented, right? So when you have your phone today, it's highly digital. You can see where north is. You can have a Zoom call, so you can have a virtual aspect. Somebody who's far away can be there for you, right? It becomes your digital avatar, your version of you, right? The challenge with the digitalization is the amount of data you can transmit with it, but it becomes a version of you, right? So digitalization it's still in its infant stages. So look at this like an evolution. It's not like digitalization is there and it's done, it's finished, we moved over to the next. No. It's a prerequisite for AI to work. It's a prerequisite for many of these other aspects to work too. Right? So digitalization is the first element, right? The next is the technology revolution, which is the conversion of many trends together, right? Part of this was COVID. Part of this is the population, the migration, the workforce, the annihilation of the middle class, the BRICS countries, the trade routes are changing. All of these are, you hear it in the media, but it's already defined quite clearly how it comes and which phase it comes, right? And then you have the next phase, which is the environment revolution, right? You see how Europe is doing it, Paris Agreement, Kyoto Agreement, all of this, right? And this comes to a good point, right? US innovates, Asia copy, and Europe regulate. And somehow they keep doing the same things. Right, so in environment revolution, Europe is very strong on the regulations. They're taking the lead on this, right? So that means this part is with CBAM, with Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, which is the Paris Agreement that every country has signed, will affect the companies on how they are, every balance sheet of every company. That's the biggest transformational change we have here, right?
And then you have something connected living, you call it?
Yeah, that's a subset. That's how it changes it, right? The one thing I should say about the environment revolution, right, is we can get panicked about the future looks bad. We have a good future ahead of us, right? I'm optimistic, right? I'm optimistic about the opportunities, what we can do, and I think the future looks bright more than dark, right? It depends on which voices that you listen to. But I think we are able to create a better future and a smarter future. What they do in the Paris Agreement is very, very smart, right? They enable companies to change the way to make net zero and carbon credit a financial asset that they can work with, right? Then we have the next one, which is the economic revolution, which we are in now. If people have not noticed, the OECD, how we measure GDP, how we do our financial models, does not work anymore. Our financial market is about to crack, and it has already cracked. Just the media is holding the crack back, right? So would you be surprised when I tell you that 99% of all the money are securities?
Wow. Can you elaborate on that?
So securities is money based on money, no assets, right? So it's paper. It's just paper saying it's money. $100 billion here. It's $100 billion, right? It's asset based on an asset based on an asset based on an asset based on an asset, right? So, and so when you look on some of the economic numbers in Europe with our pension scheme, when you look on, for example, Germany has diluted the last 2 years 17% of their savings of the people, right? So many of these elements changes. So the economic revolution changes fundamentally on how we can interact with each other, right? So cryptocurrency will play a bigger role. I know the last couple of years, cryptocurrency has been pushed out as being the bad. Every criminal is doing cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is probably one of the safest way to do a transaction, right? So I think in the economic pillar, it's also the hidden stuff that is there, right? All of the pillars we have in society, the media, the government, the banks or financial institutions, all of this has become unhinged, right? It has become so unhinged that the amount of money that we have printed, we can never pay back, right? So there will be a reset in the economic element. In Europe, if you are a little bit into economics, you realize that 3 months ago, the European Central Bank went off GDP to measure net zero. Huge change. Why? Because from all the assets you can print money on, carbon credit is one asset, right? So from there, then we move to the bio-revolution, right? So everybody talks about AI today, right? And AI, biggest move in 2017, AI has been around for quite a while, right? And AI, the biggest progress in AI has been in Germany in reality. And then America took and copy-pasted it and did the transformer, right? The transformer is, it's in a paper, if people want to read it, it's called Attention is All You Need. It's like when you want to know Bitcoin, you read the Satoshi paper, right? So certain white papers you have to read to understand. They are open source. You can copy it and reuse it, right? So what is the unique thing with AI? It's the automation of things, right? It does not understand what it comes with, right? We also don't understand how it comes with it, right? So part of this is a little bit challenging, right? So Europe. US is doing AI content driven. It's very energy heavy. They're consuming information like heavy, right? So what are they really doing? They're stealing intellectual capital. It's the infringement of intellectual capital. In reality, Europe's biggest play in AI will be the bio-revolution. The bio-revolution is how, when you look at these three worlds that collide together, digital, virtual, and the physical, this is the play where the physical world collides together. Think about your cell has more communication, chemical communication, balancing within 1 second than the entire internet. So let's go back to digitalization. Digitalization works because you have zeros and ones. And so we have, within zeros and ones, we carry information.
Correct.
Yes. So it's the same in the bio-revolution. Your cell carries information. So everything that will merge within the bio-revolution, right, is the biosystems, bio-interfaces, right? Bio-reality. 6 disciplines merging, and 3 of them are new industries that are coming up, right? So the life science and pharma are very aware of that. They are where automotive industry was 10 years ago, where they were saying, electric cars, right? And then it suddenly hit them and they all need to change and adapt to something. Players from outside came in, created something new, right? This will be the same in the life science and pharma industry. So it's a huge, huge industry that is on a huge transformation. So what is the biorevolution? The biorevolution is your ability to control your information of your body. You can control your health. You can control your emotions. You can control the food you have, customized food. You can store information. So your physical body can store data, right? You can carry data all around it, right? So it becomes the miniverse, right? So it unlocks what we discussed before, your inclination, your full potential.
Yeah, I was
right?
thinking about that.
So drug discovery, customized drug discovery, and all of this, it will be a huge element that comes into that, right? So AI plays the biggest role in that. And that's where I actually see your company playing one of the biggest roles, right? Because you need simulations of quantum computer today on AI information to make sure that you watermark, safeguard important information. But also when you think about why is it that the Web 3.0 never really kicked off? Because there was no financial incentive for it. The Bitcoin community had their gangbang and were really excited, got a lot of money, did a little bit on Web 3.0. But Web 3.0, I defined it here in the book, is like nothing. It's a joke, right? Web 3.0 will first emerge in the biorevolution. Because it's in the biorevolution, your information will be your ability to make money.
Wow.
Right? Because how do you protect and make a filter around your information? This is Web 3.0, right? Today, you have the internet where the information is stored. Then you have, right? And then the next version you move it to is that your information is, you are part of the internet, but you are the filter to which information comes to you. Today you're on the internet and you are the product. Suddenly you are the product, right? So, and I think that will merge in the biorevolution, right? And I think that you, Kapil, can play a quite critical part of that. I know that you're quite interested in the Web 3.0, right? And I think you can play a critical role in that, right? Prototyping, we can do something in the institute together, prototyping on this. This is a quite interesting element, right?
Yeah.
Then we have the other revolutions coming. And I should say, the biorevolution, after the biorevolution, when I announced the digitalization in 2009, people think I was smoking, right? Because there's AI, Henrik, this is so far out, right? 2016, they were all afraid that they would lose their job, right? Today, AI is like the big thing, but it's more like social media. It will take time for it to mature, right? It's the same thing with quantum. Quantum will have a different revolution, but it will take time. It will not mature before 2029 or 2035. There's a far bigger maturity that comes to it. And the quantum revolution, which is the last one, will not be the same as the fusion revolution and the consumer revolution, because it will be the silent one. But it will have a bigger impact than any of the other ones, right? But let's go to the next one, the consumer revolution, right? When the Web 3.0 emerges, it changes the way that you consume.
Yeah.
Because you suddenly become the asset. You earn money on what information is pushed to you and how you push to you.
Yeah.
Right? It changes the way, because your physical body, your way you eat food is customized. Your way how you consume medicine, your way of how you want to consume your reality changes. It changes fundamentally every aspect of you as human. It's the integration on advancing us as humans, right? I should also say here, there's nothing really to fear from AI towards human. People are doing a little bit fear-mongering, right? So, but that's another session, just AI, right? Then we have fusion science. Fusion science is like quantum computing, just the other way around, right? You fuse molecules together to create a superpower. You create a sun to create eternal power of energy. We're not that far away from it.
Wow.
That will change the energy price that we have, and the reasons why it's forced more. The amount of energy we use today, the cost of energy, the cost of energy we use on AI, it's crazy, right? That will force us to, we will first go nuclear and then we go fusion. They go hand in hand together, right? In fusion, we are also the part of energy and water, right? Water and energy will be a free, accessible element because it will be abundant. All right. Then the last one is the most freaky one, which was for me the most exciting one, right? It's quantum mechanics and quantum science and quantum reality, right? And it's a difficult thing to explain, even for the experts that I talk to, right? You have models that you explain it with, but it's difficult. It's not a real element on how you do that, right? So it originates from Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr, right? Their big discussion. And in reality, they were both right. Quantum revolution is the way how you alter matter in a way to alter reality, sensing, communication, computing, and all of this, right? So to put this in a different way, today here, if I would drop this glass, there's a physical law that is well defined, Newton laws. You can measure it, you can do all of this, right? When you go one level lower down and one level lower down, we have quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics is the physics of probabilities. Quantum is the physics of uncertainty.
I just loved everything that you explained, the way you explained. And we are gonna put this up on the screen when the video goes out. This cycle, just to kind of show the audience, this is what we were discussing, is gonna be up on the screen. This is the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
Where are we? What's the next step look like?
We are actually right here. So the bio-revolution is what we're in now, right? We're entering into the bio-revolution. And so I think the bio-revolution will change a lot for all of us, right? It's a good industry.
It is, indeed it is.
And it's one industry that you will participate in too.
Yeah. Trying to.
Yeah.
That's I would say. Trying to make a difference. Learning, lot to learn, so much to learn. And I think that's the most exciting thing to be in this. Like you said, it's a fascinating time we live in. Wow.
What's your vision of the future?
With technology, of course, like even today, technology is an enabler created by humans for humans. My vision for the future is when this technology actually adds value to the grassroots level. And when we say that technology is going to change the world, it's not just like the top 2 or top 5% that are getting impacted. We are able to create technological solutions that is actually for the world at large. it impacts everybody, from students to people in the lower class to the capitalists to the politicians, everything. If we are able to create an infrastructure, if we are able to create tools which enables this to happen, I think that's when the world will change.
So what do you think are the most important skills for people that listen to this, that they need to get into if they want to take an education, or they have an education and they need to reskill? What do you think are the most important skills?
I think, so me personally, I'm definitely far from, advising or sharing anything. But what I personally believe in is the most important, I don't know if it is a skill, but belief system. Anybody who wants to get into this industry or trying to make an impact, the first and the most important thing is the belief that you can. And second, being really open to learn new. Like every day there is so much happening. Like I can say with confidence today, I don't know for how long we have had this discussion. I have no idea. Time just flew by. I have learned so much. Like I'm going to go back to the drawing board and implement all of these things that I've learned from you today in my life, right? So these two things is something that I pay the most importance to. Number one, the belief system that you can actually make a difference. You can actually bring in change, because unless you believe in it, you're never going to be able to do it. It's going to be a difficult ride. And second, the flexibility and the openness to learn, and always finding the opportunity to, learn from the best. Like, for example, I wanted to meet you in person. I wanted to learn from you. Took a 10-hour flight from India to just be here in Switzerland to be with you. And it has been the best decision I've taken, literally, right? So this is how it works for me. It works different for everybody, but that's what I strongly believe in.
Yeah. I think I like that, right? I think it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You need to... you have an ability to have a phone. You have an ability to learn. Access to knowledge today is free, and everybody can learn, right? I think personally the two most important skills to have is project management, and then the second is going into a field of research. If the engineers are the ones that innovate the world, not AI guys.
Yeah.
AI guys are engineers.
Yeah.
Right? Become a physicist. Go into nanobiology, to whatever field or specialty, a science field, right? Because science is what will bring the society forward.
Yeah. And what's going to be your advice, Professor, to the young builders who are now wanting to build something? Let's say who believe, okay, technology is the next thing, they want to build something. What's going to be your advice to the youth?
So I know, I just mentioned that before, a lot of people follow your passion and just do your best and do all of this, right? These are slang words from motivation, right? Reality is just a little bit different. You're born into a certain country, you have certain environments, you have certain obligations to your family, you follow a journey, and then within that journey, whatever is presented to you as an opportunity, take and make the best out of it, right? And I think for me it was a certain journey. I think that there's a destiny for everybody somehow, but I don't think that it's that disclosed the same way, right? But I see the same pattern with most people, right? For me, it was the pattern that I was young. I wanted to travel the world. I met my wife, and she just blew me away. And so I decided not to travel. And I took the most exciting journey of my life, right? I married her, we got children. I think part of the decision you make in your life changes your life, right? When you fall in love, it's like It's like an experience of life. You shouldn't die without falling in love with somebody. But falling in love means that you are willing to lose everything you have just for this, right? That's the same thing you do. I have the same love for strategy, right? I didn't know strategy. I applied it and I fell in love with strategy the same way, right?
And do you think, Professor, the sacrifice for love is worth it? And when I say that, I'm including both personal as well as professional love.
Sacrifice for love, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. What is it that makes us different than AI? It's very, very simple, right? We have emotions, right? Because we are emotional beings, we have a perspective and a view of something. We feel something, and the feeling takes action to us. It doesn't matter if it's real or not real. It's what you feel, and what you feel is real for you, right? And you can say that's one thing that makes us unique as human beings. Well, then the second thing is, because you can feel, you can time travel. You can travel to the past, you can travel to the future, and you can travel in the now, right? Doesn't matter if the past is real or the future is real. You create something, and what you create, you feel life in the now. The feelings are the fabric that makes your life real, right? When you eat your curry, the senses, the smell, everything you have around it, right? When you build friendship, the trust you build, the connection you build, right? When you have hope for the future, hope is an emotion, right? Right? When you fear for the future, fear is an emotion. But I'm the decider what I put to it, right? So that's the second thing, right? The third thing that makes us different is that we, as human, we have identities. I have many identities, faces I put on, right? I'm a father, I'm a lover, I'm a researcher, I'm a professor, so I have many faces. These faces are building certain types of my identity, but they're not me. They're versions of me. So the versions of you is never, you cannot capture it, because you're not the same now than you were 5 minutes ago. So you are an evolving version that is constantly moving, right? So that's the third element that makes us different. And because we have emotions, because we can time travel, then we come to the fourth element. We have morals. We have values. Your morals and values are not the same than mine. But it doesn't matter. We try to comprehend and see something into what it is and what it's not. We try to understand the world, right? AI can automate. AI can come with output. We are conscious being and unconscious being, right? So AI will be our biggest supporter, but it cannot be our competitor.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
100% in agreement. Yeah. 100%. Wow.
If I should close with something, right?
Yeah, please.
I do believe we live in the best times.
Yeah.
There's nobody on the face of the earth that has walked like we have walked. Anybody that listens to this, right? They're the most blessed generations of any of their generations. They eat food like kings, even better. Right? They have a better health, they have more knowledge, more insight, more equal rights, they have more money on their hands, they have more of everything, right? So with how far we have come, I think this as human being is a nice journey to be at the next stage and to participate, right? And I think every human can participate in some kind of version of that, right? I think the future looks bright. I think there's hope. I think there's more things we can do together, right?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing these insights. Like literally, I think this is one of the best discussions I've had, and you're one of the best human beings I've met in my life. I really mean it. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thanks a lot. And let's go to the mountains.
100%. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Professor Henrik von Scheel. Thank you for tuning into Quantum Minds.